it just means a lot to me that you guys are joining us today and you're using this time at home, preparing for the upcoming admissions process with your family by being here with us. So, we wanted to share a little bit about ourselves, Lindsay and I together, and that way you know a little bit about our backgrounds and our own experiences. So, you better know kind of the questions that you can ask us since you'll know our backgrounds. So, previously, before coming to MoonPrep, I was an admissions counselor at a Big Ten university. So, I've had the privilege of being the person right there, in the seat, reading all the applications and the essays of students who were either very prepared for their applications, and I have some good, examples from their standout experiences, and also reading applications that were obviously written the night before. So, and before that, I worked as a staff writer for a national magazine, and I just really love to bring all of this like behind the curtain admissions knowledge to all of you, as well as kind of a strong writing background from being a writer for a magazine. So,
Yeah, perfect. And my name is Lindsay, and I'm also a counselor here at MoonPrep. I've worked as a writer and an SAT tutor for the past 5 years. Personally, I work one on one with students to help them raise their academic profile. But my real passion is helping students create a compelling personal statement and ultimately helping them emerge as a stronger writer. And to that end, I also do a lot of the writing here at MoonPrep and have interviewed admissions officers at college, medical schools, BSMG programs, competitive colleges, as well as other leaders in the university and medical school admission industry, just so that we can give you the best knowledge possible.
so Lindsay and I have kind of a variety of backgrounds that we bring to the table, and we spend our time now working as independent counselors at MoonPrep. And MoonPrep is made up of a team of independent college counselors who work with students virtually and guide them through not only the college admissions process, but also through high school. So we can guide you through every step of the way. And we really are serving as a guide and mentor to our students at every age and level. We're helping younger students select the right classes for their major and helping them narrow down career interests to help them choose a major in the future. And then we're also helping them find summer research opportunities or internships to help them build up their resume so they're a really strong candidate when they go to apply as a senior. And really, our goal is to make sure that all of our students are the most competitive candidates possible for even the most selective universities. And then, of course, with our rising seniors, we help guide them through college applications so nothing's missed and they're on top of every portion of that college application. And then also help them brainstorm the perfect college essays based on the hundreds of ones that we've seen over the past couple of years. And essentially, we're working with students in a one on one capacity. We're not following a typical Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 schedule. We're working nights and weekends and holidays most of the time. I'm always up until midnight on Halloween, usually. And we're, in every single time zone too, whenever it's convenient for the student. We're just filling the gap that might arise from a busy high school counselor who might not have time to be helping with every one of these big ticket items for every student on their list. And also, I haven't met many guidance counselors who are up on a Zoom call helping a student edit an essay at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night. And that's exactly what we do. So, our company is just super unique because we really only accept a limited number of students for each counselor so we can completely focus on that student's individual needs. And we especially work with medical school applicants and grad school applicants on top of our underclassmen and BSMD students too. And of course, we have that focus on highly selective college admissions and direct medical programs or BSMD programs. And also, the cool thing about working with one of us, we'll move on into kind of the more specifics and get to all of your questions, but I just want to let you know that when you work with one of us, you're really working with all of us because we meet usually bi-weekly and we share advice about our students and ask each other for advice on items. So when you work with one of us, you're really working with all of us and you're getting all of our shared experience all in one. So it's a really, really great setup that we have.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree with what Michaela just said. So I'll also tell you about our special offer that we have going on right now. So if you're a senior and you're planning on applying to schools, maybe on the 1st, maybe on the 15th of November, it's right around the corner, and you haven't started your personal statement yet, now is the time to get started on it. So we have offered a special offer just for you, our webinar attendees. This personal statement package it's a really great deal because you get a brainstorming call. We write you an outline. Michaela's been working with a lot of our students on that, and she sets you up fantastically. She helps you write an outline that's about half the length of the essay, so you really are set up for success. And then we go through 2 rounds of editing, and these aren't just like commas and adding in some periods and kind of fixing your grammar up. No, this is really intense editing, making sure that you are showing who you are in the best light, adding in requesting that you add in specifics, guiding you to a better flow of an essay. So making sure that you're showing off who you are, because as we'll talk about later, a lot of these like super competitive schools, they want to see how you can succeed in an essay. So we can help you on that process. So this could be done if you have a November 1st deadline. It's like 10 days away. So it's beyond the time to get started, but we can really help you get there. So I'll be sending out an email to everyone who attends along with this recording. So you can just reply to that email and we can get you started literally right away, tomorrow, this weekend, to make sure that your personal statement is the best it can possibly be. But yeah, that's
And
our
yeah, just to jump in there, again, the last student that I worked with on one of these personal statement packages, there the honestly the the outline that they walked away with before the end of the very first session, the brainstorming session, the outline was 350 words. And as we know, the Common App is only 650 words. So literally all they had to do was just like expand it out a little bit. And that first editing round, I'm spending time being like, here's where we need to add, a moment of kind of like introspection. So here are 3 options of a way to do that. Do you want to take one of these options? Do you like one of them? Put it into your own words. So I mean, honestly, the editing round is like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of additional, here are suggestions, examples of how, I'm not just saying like reword this, rephrase this. I'm giving you, here's one way you could rephrase this, and here's an example, and you know, here's an example from another student or something like that. So you're seeing a bunch of examples and everything. So just wanted to let you know that this personal statement package is very comprehensive, and your personal statement is done and ready to send as soon as we're done with our sessions. And also I have time on Sunday. So Sunday, let's get going, guys.
I like it. Okay, so just a reminder, this is definitely interactive. We don't really have a presentation planned. We did get a lot of questions emailed to us beforehand. We'll be going through those. I see some of the questions are starting to come in. Feel free to ask your questions that are related to you as well. I know that for like the earliest a student can apply to colleges, we're going to answer that one later, so we can get to that. But we'll definitely work our way through a lot of your different questions. So we're looking forward to having a really great session with you guys. And just a reminder, hit subscribe. We'll give you the link to our upcoming webinars. We have another Ask Me Anything in a couple weeks on November 4th. So we'll be here to answer any questions you might need. But for now, we can get into some questions. So let Michaela take it away.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to answer one of the one on the screen, and then we can start jumping into the ones that are being sent in right now. So the first question that got sent in, or just yesterday, I think, was inquiring on the rate in which U.S. universities offer scholarships to international students. So honestly, it's pretty rare to run across colleges that offer lots of merit scholarships to international students. Of course, these colleges exist, but they're not available at every college. So you can't just apply to Wesleyan University or something. and just expect to be given a scholarship if you're an international student. So you really have to do some research in advance. So one tip for starting that research is to look for keywords that are global leaders scholarships or global leadership scholarships, which is really what scholarships for international students are typically named. I just see that a lot. So it's just a very typical name for them. So if you're searching for those keywords, you're getting a lot of them. So some of these colleges that have these merit scholarships for international students, this is just a good place to start looking. But they're asking for examples, so I want to give some examples. That's Clark University. I'm going to go slow so people can write this down. East Tennessee State, Columbia College in Missouri. There's Concordia College, Illinois State, and Illinois Wesleyan. So I did say Wesleyan before that didn't have them, but I guess Illinois Wesleyan does have them. And then the universities of Arkansas, Minnesota, and Oregon. So, for students in other countries searching for ways to attend a US college affordably, honestly, finding the right school is the best first step. Many colleges offer great scholarships for international students or overall tuition caps to give international students a break, which is called banded tuition. And this is seen in schools like Southwest Minnesota State and Indiana University Bloomington. And banded tuition just means that international students will pay the same tuition as a student from out of state. Department scholarships are one of the best ways to obtain international students too, or scholarships too, especially in the science field. So that's a great way to start. Um, but honestly, just do some good old fashioned Googling because there's lists of schools that are international friendly with their tuition.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we can answer some of these questions, and I think that this one's a good one to get started. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later on as well. But this one is about can you please tell how to strengthen our extracurricular activities part and application? So I'm assuming this is in the Common App because each one is a little bit different. You might have just 150 characters to really take advantage of this section. And so, for that reason, we really do recommend that you do um, uh, really use your time wisely. So with just 150 characters, try and add a lot of impact. Try and add a lot of numbers. So don't just say like I tutored students. Say I tutored, 10 students. I tutored them in math. I tutored them every week. So just that we can kind of get a better understanding of who they are and where they are going as well. So that's kind of just a good way to go about doing that and making sure that you're kind of using your time wisely for that situation. And of course, like you should definitely order it in the order of importance. The order does matter. So, for example, if you did, tennis and you were like the JV varsity captain of your team, maybe that would go up on the top of the list. If you did research, maybe that would go near the top of the list. But if like, you only volunteered for 10 hours somewhere, maybe that would go near the bottom of the list. Just trying to organize it and make sure that it is, strategically done for yourself as well, showing your best qualities to the school. Okay. What's our next one?
I'm so sorry I left for a second. Something just hit my window and
Oh,
I just had like a moment where I'm alone in this house. What is here?
no. Oh,
I'm
no.
so sorry, everyone. Okay, perfect. So, um, okay. Students International. Okay, we're gonna move on to another. I don't know what question you just answered, Lindsay. I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay. No, go for it. You can do this one. Or I can do this one too, just to let you get your bearings back
I'm
in place.
so sorry,
No,
guys.
no, you're totally fine. This
What question did you just
I
answer?
put the activity list.
Perfect.
Strengthen our
Thank you.
extracurriculars, yeah. So this next one was what in general does the application process involve and how does one apply to schools? So this one was from a younger student. And so for us, whenever we're working with MoonPrep students, really the process begins the summer before your senior year. So we start working with our seniors, our rising seniors, on their personal statement first. That personal statement, as we've talked about with like, our special offer, 650 words. It's a one of the most important pieces of the application, written wise, because it goes to every single school. So we try and give our students as much time as possible to answer answer and write their prompt as effectively as possible. And then after that's done, we start kind of trying to make sure that our college list is in place. And I have some action steps for our college list, because we do definitely want to have a well balanced list. You don't want to have all reaches. And a reach school is like, a school that's maybe your stats are a little bit lower than the average student, and the acceptance rate's like 15% or less. So even if, like, you're applying to Harvard and your stats are on point for the other students, it would not be a match. It's a reach just because the acceptance rate is so low. As for matches, that's whenever your stats match what the average student is. And the acceptance rate's like 20 to 45% or so. And then for safeties, maybe you're above the qualifications, and the acceptance rates 45% or higher. So you have a pretty good chance of getting in. So that's something that we start working with our students come summer, kind of really solidifying that list, and start working on those supplemental essays as well. Kind of getting all those pieces in place. Um, Letters of recommendation, if we have to take the SAT or ACT again, depending if they're going test optional or not. Kind of thinking about all those things as we're going along. And so by the time that just senior year comes along, we've hopefully gotten as much written as possible. We can have it maybe later senior year, but usually it unfortunately doesn't work that way. So we typically work with our students, and then November 1st is the first deadline. And well, I guess October 15th really was kind of the first. And so someone asked, how early can someone submit their applications? August, September. Um, when do the applications usually open? Is it August or September, Michaela? Do you know?
Usually August.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so of course the early action, like the actual deadlines, the earliest ones are pretty much October 15th.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, I guess we're already in October, so this is a moot point kind of if you're a senior. But
Mhm.
if you're a junior and you're looking ahead at these things, if a rolling admissions school opens their application in August, if you apply in August, September before everybody else kind of gets their act in gear,
Mhm.
honestly, you're showing huge demonstrated interest, and you're
Mhm.
showing them that you are really prepared, and you have a better chance at like merit scholarships and everything just because of your demonstrated interest. Sometimes they'll like boost you to the next level of merit scholarships, not always merit scholarships, but just any kind of scholarships because of how early you apply,
Mhm.
honestly, before they even know how many other people are applying. So you kind of have an advantage. So if you're a junior and you're looking ahead like that, and an application opens in August, apply in August, especially if it's a rolling admission. You have some extra chances at money potentially. So go for it.
Yeah, and that
But
being said, though, I'm gonna jump in. Only apply
yeah, go
though
for
if you're 100% ready. Don't be like, "Oh, I need to apply by August because it's open."
it.
You have one chance to
Yeah.
apply. If you apply August 1st or August 15th for a rolling admission school, it's not gonna be a huge difference. So take that, make sure that your application is polished, it's clean, your personal statement is, grammatically correct, it flows well, it shows your best qualities. So your supplementals are well written. It's not repeating what you said in your supplemental. It's just not a repeat of your resume. So um, you don't have to feel like you need to rush to apply. But yeah, Michaela's right. The sooner the better, especially for rolling. And but if it's a deadline, like an early action, if you apply in August, they're probably not gonna look at it until the
No.
deadline date anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much.
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have another question down here. Are you done? You
Yes, I
done?
am.
Okay. We have another question. This is really interesting, and I love this question too. So, my son goes to an early
Mhm.
college. When it comes to schoolwork, he's doing really well. However, he's also autistic and has social issues. What colleges would you recommend? So, here is where, and again, just some good old fashioned research is really going to help you out. I can do research in 2 seconds on this webinar on the side and come up with some ideas for you. But the main thing you're going to be looking for are colleges that offer success programs. Kent State, in particular, offers a college success for students with Asperger's or autism, and that's a comprehensive program that offers like job assistance and self advocacy training and also individualized academic support. And then, of course, they have like other social services too. So, this is going to be something like programs like that are going to set your son up for success and just really just support him through the college experience because of course academically if he's doing well he should absolutely pursue an incredible degree and everything but we just want to make sure that he's going to be successful too especially if he has social issues so just making sure that you're looking at the colleges that have a success program in place on campus to really just support him. So Kent State is a great one. I know Alex, our other counselor, has mentioned that USF, University of South Florida,
Mhm.
also has a program like this. And there's also one in Eastern Michigan. So just do a little quick search and you'll find lists that just come up with 20 schools that are great for students with autism and then you can read the reasons why they're great for students with autism and that's just the best place to start your research and then of course from there you can look into their academics and other things but that's a great starting point.
Mhm. Perfect. Okay. All right. And I see another great question, which is how many college applications should one work on? And so this is a great question. I think it just depends on what your college goals are. So if you're interested in applying to a lot of really competitive programs that it's like, 5%, 10% acceptance rate, like Ivy Leagues, BSMD programs, you likely will need to apply to quite a few schools. Our students apply to on average about 17 programs or schools in all, just because it is so competitive. So, kind of balance out your list. If you are applying like to mostly, in-state schools that have a pretty, forgiving acceptance rate, then you might only have to apply to 5 to 10. It just kind of depends on what your goals are. And, kind of looking at that college list as we talked about, like applying early, looking at it early, making sure that you have everything prepared. Getting everything in on the early action deadlines is better. So, working on as many schools as possible um, is our biggest piece of advice.
Definitely, have a few, even on the very lowest level, have a few reaches, a few matches, and a few safeties. So
Yeah.
on the very lowest level, have six. But, you can definitely go up from there for
Mhm.
more in
Yeah.
each category.
Yes.
Um,
Definitely, definitely. Okay.
so this question, can you apply to international colleges? As far as if this means kind of like right now, do we think that's what this is asking?
I'm not sure. It was like, can you apply to the original wording was like, can you apply to colleges outside of your country?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
People do that every single year, or you can also attend a university. If you're in the states, you can always attend in-state or in the U.S. university, and also study abroad. So honestly, you have lots of different options, and I think you'd even study abroad if you go to on a school out of the country too. So honestly, I know some borders are closed right now, so I
Yeah.
don't know what advice to give you on that. I guess we're gonna kind of see what happens over the next few months. But absolutely, applying to international colleges is a thing that people do every single year. I'm working with one student right now who is an international student who's applying to colleges here in the US. And so, yep, every year. And there's even schools like if you attend school in Germany and things like that, there's even ways to attend school for free even
Mhm.
undergrad or master's programs. So look into ways you can study abroad for free, even full degrees in English. There's a few programs in Iceland that you can do for free. So, yes, you can absolutely apply to international colleges. This year might be tricky though.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. This one I think we kind of already covered. What are the basic college admissions requirements? It really will vary based on school. Maybe you have to submit an SAT or ACT score in this year, maybe not to get, accepted into the school. Usually you have to have like a letter of recommendation, your personal statement, maybe those supplementals, and then of course fill out, the application itself. But you might have to hit some certain qualifications too, depending on what your major is. But for the most part, if you're just applying to a university, not like a special program, that's about it. Can you think of anything else you would need? Fast fire, I guess. Financial aid.
Yeah. So, this is gonna be something that really differs from every school too.
Mhm.
So, most schools will have, you have to have 4 years of English, 4 year, 3 years of social science, 3 years of, what's the other science? What's it called? Hard science, something, other science. What
Math sciences?
physical science? Physical
Physical
science.
sciences?
Maybe
Yeah.
physical science, I'm sorry. I'm blanking, and 4 years of math, so
Yeah.
we just wanna make sure, that you are looking at not only the schools you're interested in, and you're looking at them in advance to be able to actually do something about it if you have to have change your classes or something like that, but also for your major. So, the school I used to work for had their basic requirements, which is what I said, but they also had different requirements for, like, if you were gonna go into engineering, you had to specifically have, physics, or you had to specifically have chemistry, and you had to make sure that you at least had taken calculus. So you have to make sure that not only do you meet their basic admissions requirements, which differ between all schools, but also for your major. So just like look into that. That's something to look at when you're building your college list.
For sure. Good answer. Okay. And so this one we kind of already
Yeah.
covered. When should I start applying to colleges? This might be a little bit smaller, but this we'll kind of go through quickly because early action deadlines have kicked off. October 15th was a lot of them. UNC, I think Georgia Tech was another one. Quite a few different schools had October 15th deadlines. The next big ones are going to be November 1st, November 15th. So all of our students are kind of frantically working towards those deadlines. But the good news, if you're applying like to an early decision school, you'll find out by December, by Christmas usually, whether or not you got into the school. So it's kind of a weight off your shoulders if you got in. And then if you didn't get in, you have a little bit of time to work more towards those regular deadlines, which are typically in January. And then your decisions will be released in May, or sorry, March or April, because May 1st is when you have to let the school know. So if you're a senior right now, it's like literally upon you right now. If you're a junior, just so you're aware, November 1st, October 15th, whatever the deadlines are, they come way quicker than you think they are. Time flies by, so it really is important to start it now.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing one over here that is my daughter is 16 and is getting 1300 on her SAT. What colleges should she be looking into? So, just like everybody else, she should be doing, kind of a list of safeties and matches and reaches. So, with a 13, you know, she's probably not super competitive for, like the Ivies, not, most of them, just especially even in our BSMD list, most people who are attending there have, a 15 and up SAT. So, but that doesn't mean that she's not competitive for some fantastic schools, like maybe even like Northwestern or Vanderbilt. Those are all, maybe, I mean, honestly, they're kind of anyone's reaches, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, I would never put those in a match or even safety for truly almost anyone.
Mhm.
But those are some schools that she could be considering. And then, especially with that score, like, here's the deal too, with that score, she's going to be getting some fantastic merit scholarships from anything that she applies to in state. So that's not something to overlook either. Of course, she can apply to these fantastic, big name schools, but also look into like what opportunities are available at schools in state, because with that SAT score, she might be getting only half tuition, which is definitely something, an incredible opportunity to be
Mhm.
able to graduate with fewer debt because of the score she's been able to achieve. So definitely look into what's available in state, but then also consider some of those bigger name schools. Even University of Chicago, things like that. Those are all definitely within her reach. So those are ones I suggest. But of course, if she wants help building a college list, reach out to us. We are happy to help.
For sure. Yeah. And remember too, like it is definitely a holistic process. So whatever your GPA is also will of course play a big role. Your experiences too are going to be important. So, you know, kind of weigh that all in as you go along too.
Just work with us and get a perfect, personal statement, and that'll boost your chances even more.
And this is perfect. It goes into well to this question about how can you be paired with a counselor at MoonPrep. What a great question. Yeah, and that's honestly, what you were saying here about how the guidance counselors have been a bit distant. It's because, as you know, they a lot of them are dealing with all the students in the school, or they have 200, 300 students. It's really hard for them to be able to handle this role. So that's, ultimately where we come in, kind of like what Michaela was saying at the beginning. And so if you want to work with us, you can sign up for a meeting with us in the last slide at the end. Um, we'll go we'll go through how you can contact us, or you can go to moonprep.com/contact. You can make a meeting with us, learn a little bit more about our services, which package might be right for you, and we'll pair you up with the perfect counselor for you. Okay.
Okay, what's the one of the biggest mistake one can make during the application process? So I know I have mine. I would say the biggest mistake people make, which I saw all the time, guys, all the time. This was like a daily occurrence.
Oh
I
no.
had a joke to myself that I would keep a little journal of how many people did this in applications. Like, this is all the time. People would use their essay as just like basically expanding their resume. So
Mhm.
they would just seriously take their personal statement to just be like, my name is Hannah, and for 4 years I've taught piano lessons.
Mhm.
Then I spent 3 years in Girl Scouts. I mean, it just was like I got nothing more from reading the essay than I did reading the activities section. So it was super hard to admit those people because I had nothing. There was no personality, there was nothing. So make sure that your resume or your essay, sorry, it can talk about one thing on your resume. That's totally fine, but it needs to talk about you. By the end, the essay, as an admissions counselor, I need to feel like we can go out for a cup of coffee together and we can chat, and I would think that you're an interesting person. That is what I need out of the
Mhm.
personal statement. I need to get to know you. I don't need just reiterating what I can read on the resume. So that's the biggest mistake I saw all the time. Um, yeah, or maybe misrepresenting their test scores. They would mess up what their SAT score was, and that's not
Wow.
good either.
No, that's not good at all. Yeah, I would say, trying to think, there's a lot of ways you can go wrong, but the biggest, I think, mistake it does come down to, I mean, what we can correct and what we can do is really the essay writing, and what Michaela was saying, just having like a list of your accomplishments, telling us rather than like showing us what you've done. So not including examples of, like great, you're a hard worker, great, you're empathetic, but like how do you actually portray that in your day-to-day life? So that's kind of the important thing to think about, is how you're writing it and how you're portraying yourself. And also, I think the absolute biggest mistake, one that um, could be, would fix kind of all the things that we were talking about, is starting too late. It's really stressful if you start now and you've got a deadline in a couple days. So starting in the summer is the best plan. Starting even earlier, kind of planning and thinking about what you're going to want to do, building up those resumes. you can't crunch together a lot of activities, a lot of experiences into a short amount of time. It does take years. So especially if you want to get into these really competitive schools or a really competitive program like a BSMD program, um, you cannot cram shadowing and volunteering and research and leadership into a summer. So just kind of
Mhm.
think about that if that is kind of what your goal is. You do have to start early, or at least like have a good foundation of things already to really be successful.
Okay, so I see one up here that says, "What are your recommendations when writing a why us essay?" So I would say the main thing is to do some solid research on the school and genuinely picture yourself on the campus and see how you would fit in. So literally like envision a puzzle piece. What are those connecting pieces? Like why would you be a good fit for them? I had a student, a couple years ago who she did like Bollywood dancing, just as a hobby. It was something she was really into, and she was applying to a school that was, like, used as a set for a Bollywood movie at one point, and so, like, that's what she wrote about. Like, she was like, I've literally done that dance before, and, like, I would love to be, on the set, and I would, like, love to, like, feel that history and things like that, but she was literally, like, envisioning herself there, and then also, like, how that tied into her future, and so that's what I really recommend is doing as much research as you can on the schools and seeing, really like how do you see yourself contributing? Like I'll let you in on a secret. Here is what colleges are wanting out of their applicants. What the selective colleges are searching for. They want to be on the resume of the person that does the next great thing. The person who cures
Mhm.
cancer, they want to be on that person's resume. So with this essay, you are showing them why should they want like why what are you doing in the future? What are you going to do on
Yeah.
their campus to further, their name in the press and things like that? Like are you going to do something cool on their campus like start a club that is gonna have national acclaim? Like, what are you gonna do to help them, basically? That's what they wanna
Mhm.
know. So, if you look at it through that lens, hopefully it kind of helps you. I have one student who, is applying to a lot of schools that are asking this, and he did, a COVID research project over the summer. He did a COVID research project over the summer, and what he's doing is he's going through and looking at all of their research that they've done with the different colleges, and so he's saying, "Here's the research I've done. I see that you've done this other research, and here is how this can tie in." So, he's having the same kind of beginning on all of his essays, and then, of course, he's tying it in with their specific research as well in the
Mhm.
end.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to think that, you want to kind of connect your past, show them what you've done in the past, just exactly what Michaela was doing or saying, and then connecting it to the future as well, like what you'd be doing with them, what you'd be doing, even beyond college. So specific is really the key for that one. It's not enough just to list off 10 things that you want, though. Giving a reason is really key. I did
Mhm,
pop some advice. Hopefully, you guys can see that link in the essay, or sorry, in the chat, so you can read that and get some advice on some of those essays. Let's see. I think that we are going through these all pretty good. I'm going to look at the next one, which is what are your thoughts on the Costco essay? Do you have any thoughts on it, Michaela?
so I haven't read this in a long
I know,
time, but I
same.
know it's kind of similar to some of the ones I see on College Essay Guy, and of course, it is well written,
Yeah.
and what I love about it is there is a theme running through it. Can everyone write like that? No. And you don't need to, honestly, you
Mhm.
don't. You don't like I see so many students coming to us like with, "Oh, I like reworked that and tried to redo it," and like it doesn't you don't have to remake that. I have a student right now who has one of the best essays I have ever read out of a student, and it looks nothing like that Costco essay. I mean,
Mhm.
it like if you put them side to side, it looks like almost like a complete opposite. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so different. So, like, you don't have to be the thing that I see with, like College Essay Guy and the Costco essay is there's kind of these little like quippy moments. There's like these little like
Yeah, so
jabbed
yeah,
little,
so
like,
clever.
comments. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's totally fine. It definitely shows that you have a sense of humor and that you're witty, and that's totally great if you can add that stuff, but you don't know who your audience is. So your admissions counselor could be a 65-year-old, man, and those things might not land. So being like genuine and deep about like introspective about yourself is going to land a little bit better than trying to be so smart and so witty and so funny.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice too. Like, don't worry about trying to emulate something if that's not just your writing style. It comes off pretty fake. So I think that's very good advice. Okay. Do you want to go with this one, Michaela? Does early college credit help a lot in college applications?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Early college credit help a lot in college applications. Yeah, so it definitely does. This was very similar to one of the questions that we had sent in about AP
Yeah.
credits. So, what I would say is I'm going to kind of combine those two questions. Let me find that question. It was
Yeah, sure. Here
Mm,
it is.
yeah. How do I get accepted without an AP in any subject? My school can't provide AP classes. I know this isn't exactly the same, but I'm going to kind of talk about the same things here. So, really, I'm going to answer kind of the one on the screen first, and then like kind of go into the other one. So, first, APs are really only going to matter if you're applying to ultra competitive colleges. A state university is going to care
Mhm.
about AP exams a lot less. But for some background information, and this is also for the question on the screen or the early college credit one, for some background information, when you apply to a college, they already have a profile of your school that your school administration submits. And you're definitely not like the first person from your school to ever apply to that college. Like this has been happening, for decades. So people have applied to that college before. They've been in touch with your school. They know what classes are available. And this goes for the early college credit one too. So that means if you go above and beyond what is available at your school, it's going to look good to that future college. But you have to be really careful about your grades because you don't want to take a full, for the AP student, you don't want to take a full load of classes at high school and then be looking at taking, college credit courses on top of that and then have your GPA at your school suffer. Like you don't want that. So only go into getting like early college credit if you can also easily make that work with your academic load as it is. But when you apply, they're already going to know the schools are already going to know that your school doesn't have AP courses, and they're not going to fault you for that. But if you're wanting to really prove that you're competitive and you are an incredibly self motivated applicant, you can take AP classes online through an online school as long as you make sure that the school and the class is approved by College Board because they run the AP exams. Or again, you can take a few college courses to prove that you're ready to be challenged by coursework. So, the reason for taking college credit is honestly to show colleges that um, you're ready to be challenged,
Mhm.
you're ready for some academic rigor, but then also, you can take care of some credits in advance, because a lot of like high school programs, dual programs have them kind of like for free. So you can kind of like save some money. So that's totally fine too. Um, it's not gonna like help a ton. It's not like people are always like, I,
Mhm.
I get this every single year. I'll have a student that's like, okay, but I only got 5 college courses, and I was really hoping to get 7. And I'm like, They're not gonna be like, "Oh, man, we would have accepted him if only it was 7." Like, there's no, like, magic number or anything like that, like, you just wanna show that you are challenging yourself. So you don't have to have college credit, you don't have to have AP exams, but it's a nice bonus.
Mhm. Completely agree. Perfect. All right. I'll
That's a
do
long answer, I'm sorry.
the perfect. I'll do the next one so you can get a little break.
Okay.
So writing styles or cliches to avoid in essays. Every cliche I think can be avoided. Like if you're using cliches, it's probably not really giving us any good insight into your writing. So, I'm trying to think of a cliche right now. I can't even think of one. Just avoid them. But writing styles to avoid. I think that a big one for my students is using a thesaurus for every single word because they want to sound smart. A lot of the times the words don't quite make sense in the right context because, of course, like synonym wise, they could be used as a match, but it just doesn't quite make sense. And so I really recommend that students just write how they would talk, however it might be. Don't try to emulate the Costco essay or like the John Hopkins essays that always get released every year about like essays that you should know or whatever they're called. Be you, and that's a lot more authentic. And then the great other question is how to balance between sounding self-absorbed versus showing your personality. To be honest, I feel like students actually very rarely has this happened where students are overly self-absorbed. Would you say that's true, Michaela? Yeah.
Yeah, mhm.
They're always holding back. They're always like, yeah, I did. I helped with something. And it turns out like they raised, you know, $50,000 and like, saved 50 puppies, but they're like, yeah, I guess I kind of did something. No, tell us how awesome you are. Otherwise, we're not going to know. I can only think of like one or two examples in all the essays I've read where a kid, I was like, this is kind of crossing the line. It makes it seem like, you were performing surgery on someone or something like that. We want to make sure that we do toe the line, but it almost never happens. And so to balance that, I really recommend that you do show it to someone else. If you are worried that you're being too boastful, show it to like, a third party. Have them look at it, make sure that the tone is okay. And for the most part, there really is nothing to worry about. I tell my students to write like their mom is actually doing the writing because moms always, over
Right.
yeah, over exude your extracurriculars, your accomplishments. So kind of try and emulate mom energy there and use that in your essay writing.
Yeah, and, so just to back that up, I just had a meeting with a first meeting with a student, and someone new to MoonPrep, and, I was asking him, like, "What's on your resume?" And he went through, he's like, "Well, I'm in this club in school, I'm in this club in school." And so I was kind of like I was like, "Well, I mean, like, if you're gonna go into BSMD, like, we need to have, like, a lot we need to, like, add some clinical experience, we need to get a research experience." And then his dad, like, pops in and is like, "Oh, yeah, no, he started, like, a foundation and all like, 2 years ago, and also he's done this internship with a free clinic for, like, 3 years." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's what I that's what I needed." So, yeah, no, I just wanted to back that up. But if you're really worried about cliches to avoid in essays, I have a ton of them. And if you wanna check I talk about them in, like, an exhaustive length. If you wanna check out our personal statement webinar,
I'll put the
I
link.
promise you there's probably, like, 20 minutes of me talking about, like, all the ones that the admissions counselors where I used to work, like, the ones we used to make fun of, so you can totally avoid them. Just check out the webinar, and I promise that it's all there.
Yes.
So I've got some ones that I can answer here real quick. I'm gonna kind of take care of a few of them all in once, because they're short answers. So if I'm applying to colleges only in Texas, where do I start the process? Is there
Mhm.
one site that covers all the colleges, or do I need to apply to each individual college? Yeah, Apply Texas is what it's called. Apply Texas, and I mean some of them I haven't run into ones that like aren't on there, but you can do Apply Texas and then also, the Common App for ones that
Yeah.
aren't on there or if you run out of spots or something, but Apply Texas, that's where you need to go. So head on over there and if you honestly run into trouble with it or anything, again, just reach out to us. We can set you up with even just like a 1 hour advice session or something like that and we can hammer it out with you, not a problem.
Yeah.
Um and Are you familiar with QuestBridge? So I specifically am not. We do have a counselor on staff who is an expert on QuestBridge. She had a QuestBridge student last year, and she would be very happy to give you all the info. I don't know a ton about it at
Yeah.
all. Um, we're happy to have her just send you an email just answering this. If you want to just send us an email, we can for sure we'll get your email if you send it in to us, and we'll ask her just to connect with you, so at least you get a 5-second answer like you would have gotten on here, because I don't know a lot about it. I'm so sorry. And for BSMD schools, what ACT score is worth showing, or is it worth going test optional? So, a fun fact, we just actually published a book that's called BSMD Programs, a Comprehensive Guide, and they break down all of the minimum scores and things like that for every BSMD program. So traditionally, I would say a 32 and up is really, really the minimum, but really a 34 and up is gonna get you in. So, is it worth going test optional? I really, really recommend not going test optional. Um, I know,
Yeah,
Lindsay, you can jump in on
yeah,
this.
there's not very many BSMD programs that are test optional, even this year. Even if the
Union
school
College.
Yeah, there's, like, a couple. Your options would be very, very limited.
Yeah.
Um, and if a lot of the tests or the schools too, if you've taken the ACT or the SAT, you have to submit it. So that's kind of something to consider is if you've taken it, you can't hide it. Like, you would be able to for a
Mhm.
normal school. You can't choose that option of going test optional for some of the schools, that being said. So yeah, for
And
ACT, it's
honestly,
tough.
there's enough applicants out there submitting great test scores
Yeah,
that, like, you're not doing yourself a favor by going test optional
yeah.
unless, you have, like, 7 years of lab experience at Harvard. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you'd have to be, like,
Amazing.
experience that no one has. I don't know.
Um, yeah, I agree. I don't think that it'd be worth going test optional, to be honest.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But we
Um,
can absolutely help you get that resume whipped into shape
yeah,
so that you are an irresistible applicant
yeah.
if you need some help.
Perfect. So I'm gonna go back a little bit because I think we've nearly answered all the questions there, and I'll let
Mhm.
Michaela kind of figure out some of those questions. But how can I start preparing for your college application when you have about 2 or more years to finish high school? This is like the best time. This is what we love to see our students because now we can really help you build up your resume. So even in quarantine, there's no excuse to just be like on TikTok all the time. You should be productive. So, when we work with younger students, a lot of the times we're just taking your current activities and maybe taking them up to the next level. So, if you're really passionate about, I can't even think about some things you're really passionate about, like animals and climbing. This is one of our students. He combined those two interests and he started a nonprofit where he is using the climbing ropes for
Chew toys.
leashes. No, I think it's leashes or chew toys or
Oh,
something with the animals. And so now, he's creating a nonprofit. He's created a business. He loves climbing. He loves animals. He combined those two interests. So I have a lot of students too. Maybe they create some tutoring nonprofit so that they could help out parents during the quarantine. What they're trying to juggle online learning with their kids. There's a lot of internships. I have a lot of students who are doing remote internships of all kinds. If it's clinical research, doing like a business internship. There's a lot of different ways. A lot of virtual volunteering. Just because you're stuck indoors and can't see anyone, there's absolutely no excuse. So these are a lot of things you could be working on right now. Um, Self-publishing a book is another great example. There's so many things you can be doing. It's something we work a lot with students on. Is just kind of creating that list, the resume, taking it to the next level, because that's what these competitive schools really want to see. They don't want to just see that you do things that everyone does. They want to see how you continue to take those interests to to the next level, combine them, constantly be growing, doing new things, because you want to, not because you feel like you have to, is ultimately the most important thing. You have to be passionate about it too.
Yeah, and again, I think in earlier in the whoa in the chat there was a link to an article that I wrote for Niche a while back.
Yeah.
Read through that because that's a bunch of like it's basically here's how to make your resume stand out, and they're all kind of creative projects. So if you're 2 years out, this is a time to start pursuing a passion project or creative project of some kind and making sure like your resume is tip top. So you need some clinical experience, you need lab research, and you need to do some sort of passion project. So again, look at that article because I have a ton of ideas in there. But it like if you're technologically inclined, like you could reach out to a small nonprofit right now and offer to help them create a professional website or develop an
Yeah.
app for them. And then like look how great that looks. And that's something you can do during quarantine. You don't have to do anything, just do a website for them. And then like that looks incredible on a resume. So just make sure you're thinking of your activities as creating a roadmap to your future major and your future career and what activities can you do right now to help you get there. So, yeah.
Yay, perfect. And I'm going to go back because we skipped some because we went to the AP ones. But how important are grades? It depends on where you're applying, and it depends on what your grades are. There's never any good easy answer. If it's like A's and B's, if it's not, I mean, one B or C, or that's not going to kill your college admissions chances. Just because you got a B, your freshman year doesn't mean that you're not going to be accepted into a top school. Even if you got two B's, like or multiple B's, it doesn't really have that big of effect as long as you show grade progression. What's the right word? Is that the right word I'm trying to look for? Trend. The grade trends upward. Oh, there we go. It trends upward because we want to show that maybe you did struggle in the beginning, but then you figured out how to study. You figured out um, how to manage your time. You figured out like sometimes you have to cut out some extracurricular activities. You can't take all APs, and do your job and help with the family. So, as long as you have that upward trend, it's okay. And but yeah, it depends a lot on the school though, how important those grades are, how much they matter. So it's hard to say how important are grades, unfortunately. Um,
Okay.
I see sorry to interrupt. I see someone's asking about the niche article. I'm trying to send the link, but for some reason when I send links in YouTube, it just doesn't like it unless it's like YouTube specific. So if you signed up for the webinar, I'll be sending that out in the chat or in the email to you guys as well. So
Okay.
never fear, it'll come to you. But also if you type in like niche and Michaela's name and resume, it'll come up. You can see all her
Yeah.
great
The
articles.
name of it is what actually makes your high school resume impressive to colleges. It's on like the second page if you're looking through all of my articles for them. But yeah, so check it out. And they've got a lot, there's a lot more articles on there too of like what to do if your SATs are canceled or how to
Mhm,
continue your college admissions plan from home if you're being quarantined still. So check out all of those because it's all based on like things to build your resume right now during virtual quarantine. So
for sure.
and it's doing the thing again where it's saying there's more messages, but I'm scrolling down and I can't see them.
I think
So
that's
if
it.
I missed them, I'm so sorry.
I think that we've answered all the questions. I do see there's one about MIT. Can
Oh,
you join MIT in the second year of graduation, like in a student exchange program or something else?
I don't know. I know
I
people
think
have transferred into MIT, but I don't
that
have a ton of information about that.
That would be something to Google because it's kind of school
Mhm.
specific, and very kind of a niche field. So I would definitely Google it. There very might well be. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but I would Google it for sure. Or attend
Mhm.
a virtual webinar that MIT I'm sure is putting out. I'm sure they
Yeah.
got a lot of things going on. And in fact, that's kind of a good advice for every single student, juniors and seniors. Every single school is doing like virtual tours or virtual like Q&As. You never know who you're going to be able to talk to, so it is to your advantage to show up to those. I think it was Michaela's student who got an
Yep.
interview. Yeah.
Yeah. My student did a online tour with a BSMD program, just like a normal sign up time, and he didn't get much information back on like how long it was supposed to be, and it turned into like an hour long interview with like the admissions director of the BSMD program.
It's
And
awesome.
I don't think he was like super prepared for it. He was like, "Whoa, better know my answers." And he did it like all the way back in like August. So he was like, you know, I promise I'll apply. Like it was before he even applied and stuff. So yeah, you just never know what opportunities are going to come because admissions counselors are supposed to be doing stuff from home and they have to fill their day. So a lot of them are doing interviews and stuff. And
Yeah.
so get on their radar early that way.
For sure.
And then yeah, should I use the COVID section of the Common app to explain how my summer plans change as a result of COVID, or will that make it seem like I don't recognize that I was lucky not to be affected in a significant negative way? So here's my advice in writing this essay. If the challenges that you faced could match the challenges faced by other students in your class, like difficulty submitting assignments or frustration over canceled SATs, then consider skipping this or having it pretty short because the admissions counselors are, required to read this, but if the pandemic altered your life in a major way, then this essay is for you. So, if the quarantine did the quarantine affect your parents' employment? Did a family member contract the disease? Did you have an immediate family member in healthcare who risked their lives in the front line and they were like living apart from you or living in the basement or something and couldn't even see you for 2 weeks? Um, did a learning disability greatly impair your ability to adjust to the new online learning style? Or were you suddenly in a parental role with your younger siblings because your parents are working from home and you had to, manage your younger siblings' class schedule and things? Did you have limited access to home computers because everyone was at home learning from home? This is the stuff that admissions counselors want to know, the major ways you were affected, because they want to evaluate your application with all the facts. So they want to know how you reacted to these challenges and see how you persevered, but they also need to know like, okay, if his grades dipped down, like was there a reason? And it's explained here. But also just make sure you're describing your positive response to the situation. Like I stepped up into a parental role and I'm tying this into maybe a leadership role I hold at a school club or something. So, just make sure it's a positive, response.
For sure. Yeah. Completely okay to talk about what you grew. Maybe like you discovered something really great about yourself or future career path. Kind of see it as a way to show that, obviously not everyone has had a negative experience during COVID, and that's okay. It wouldn't be like, gloating if you do talk about some good things that did happen, how you grew as a person.
Mhm. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So before we go into this one, I do see some questions about if you get accepted into a college, do you have to go right away, or can you wait a couple years before starting to go? So this is a great question, and I think actually we maybe answer it later on as well. I think we had like a defer. Oh, no, this isn't it. Anyway,
Mm,
but each school is a little bit different on their deferral policy. Like if you're going to defer your admission, like for example, Harvard is pretty lenient. They let you take a gap year, but each school is not like that.
mm,
So it definitely is a case by case basis, and a couple of years too. I don't think that usually you can push it off a couple years. I think it's just 1 year, is my
mhm.
understanding, but it really depends on the school. I know that it's kind of you won't know really until you reach out and ask. So that could be something to consider, especially right now during COVID. Maybe you don't want to go to a school on like a college online. You do want to wait until this is kind of all over. I would, really email the schools beforehand and reach out to them directly because it will vary by case. But I think it would be very strange if you could wait a couple years, maybe 1 year, but not two.
Well, most colleges just ask that you apply as an incoming freshman.
Hmm.
So they just consider you an incoming freshman and they don't accept you and then let you defer for a year. Um, and also the ones not like Harvard, but the ones that, you know, award a deferment for a year or a gap year is really based on like a case by case basis.
Yeah.
And usually it's because you have planned to do something. Like I'm going to go teach for America or something like that. Like it's something like you have, I have a business I've started and it's really starting to take off. I need to like see that through. It's not just because you don't feel like going for a year. So make sure if you are going to ask for a deferral that you have a giant reason why, and it can't just be
Mhm.
that you want to work a part-time job or something. So just know that you have to for sure have a good reason.
Yes, definitely. It's a great point. Cool. All right. And we can go for this one now. Do you have to send here we go, official SAT subject test scores to colleges like the ACT, SAT? Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you want to send them, it has to be official. You can't just be self-reporting. Otherwise, you could say you got an 800 on
Mhm.
test. So they ultimately want to make sure that you're not lying. So it's just
Yeah.
like insurance for them. Perfect.
You can self-report them on the application when you're
Yeah.
originally applying, but then you do have to send them in later
Mhm.
to confirm. So, yep, you have to send them in. Okay, so then there's the question on the screen that's for selective schools such as WashU, Penn, Duke, Vanderbilt that have multiple colleges. If I'm applying to arts and sciences, will my application be compared to a student applying to a different college within the university, like nursing, engineering, architecture, etc.? So, in my experience, the admissions team is admitting you based on the items that you provide. Like, does the activities on your resume support and match your future major? It's really assumed that students going into medicine will have like more on their resume than someone going into like a history major. That doesn't mean that a history major should have nothing on their resume, just things that relate to history. So, the applications will be compared in the sense that they want to see competitive applicants across the board for all majors, but they will look at the variety of majors like differently in terms of expectations. And usually you're being seen by, again, this just varies by the school, of course, but usually you're being seen by the admissions team and then the admissions team or recruiters in the individual colleges or departments. So it's kind of a two-step process, or it's just the admissions team. So again, that just varies by the school though. So
Perfect. Cool. All right. And I see we have another question too about how do we find colleges that are safe for women. I would
oh,
definitely do a Google search. I think that I don't really know any off the top of my head that would be specifically safe for women. And I think it ultimately comes down to what your comfort level is too. So I'm sure that there are lists you can look at crime
mhm.
levels, but yeah, a Google search I think would be the best bet. That of course fits all your other qualifications as well.
And you can also search for colleges that save lives or change lives, not
Seems
save lives.
like.
Wow. That's like a list of nursing schools, right? um, but colleges that change lives, those are colleges that have, like really great support services and things like that. So they're probably going to have, great security and things like that. They're most likely very safe ones too. But they'll have lists. I mean, just Google some lists because they're definitely out there. Um, and then I think we had one more sent in ahead of time, right?
Yeah, we have a couple more.
Oh,
Yeah, I can do this
okay.
one if you want, then you can tackle actually, I think we have 2 more.
Oh,
So this one's about, will my application be compared to my high school classmates' applications? If, like, what if we're really similar? If there's no are there, like, caps? Is it unlikely that a single high school or sorry, a selective university will take more than a few students from one public high school? So honestly, it might be likely. That's why it's kind of your job. And like, a lot of what we talked about is how to stand out with your essay, how to stand out with your experiences, um, and not just limiting yourself to what the school offers because everyone might be doing HOSA, everyone might be doing DECA, everyone might be doing, of course, National Honor Society, the clubs that are within your school. So that's kind of why we do recommend that you try and build on your passions, you find your passion project. So even if you're a senior, there are lots of options you can still be doing that aren't within, your school's offering. So you can, create a website, maybe like a tutoring nonprofit, host a fundraiser for like a library, donating like a library to an orphanage, a book drive. There's um, tons of different ways that you can help yourself stand out. And you're right. If a school in Seattle is accepting 10 students from Delaware, they probably aren't all going to be from the same high school, because that might raise some eyebrows to their board of directors. So that's why standing out is key.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a tough one. So, given the number of freshman deferrals this year, will there be fewer spots for high school seniors applying this year? And if so, how does that change the strategy for applying early? For example, if there are far fewer spots, it might be throwing away early advantage by applying to small schools like Davidson, for example, that might be more selective than usual this year. So, colleges really, again, vary in their deferral policies. Some
Mhm.
have, the policy of granting a year-long deferral on admission, automatically, or some review requests individually, and then some, of course, just don't even accept gap years and then ask them to apply as if they're high school seniors. And again, the policy for most schools is there needs to be good rationale for deferring. There needs to be a good reason. Above all, gap years are supposed to be reserved for students to do something worthwhile. And right now, no one can really do anything that cool. Like service trips are limited because closed borders, and laboratories are taking less volunteer help to minimize their own risk within the lab. So honestly, a lot of those things are kind of working in your favor, that you'll kind of like look better to these colleges than freshmen who took a gap year to essentially do nothing this year and are applying as incoming freshmen, truthfully. But here's what I'm going to say. Of course, like some people are starting companies and doing cool things, but that's really obviously not the case for everyone. I've been trolling on Reddit and seeing what people are like have been doing, and they're like, I meant to do this year and I didn't accomplish it. So I'm seeing a lot of that. But here's what I'm going to say about fewer spots. This is just my opinion because, of course, we don't know what is really going to happen this upcoming admission cycle, which is crazy because we're supposed to be applying right now and we don't even know what it looks like next fall. So, I mean, nobody is really giving us concrete answers right now, so it's a little frustrating, but I've been trying to find these answers and it's honestly hard. And I don't work for a college anymore, I work for MoonPrep, so I mean, I have contacts, but they're working a little bit different than the selective colleges, so I don't know. But again, obviously things are a bit different between the non-elite schools like state public universities and the top tier elite schools, but across the board, colleges lost a lot of money this past year. They need to recoup those funds very badly. So, as far as fewer seats, I think the seats available can't dip down too much simply because they need to make up those lost funds. Of course, they have to take into consideration like class sizes and things like that. So, a smaller school is going to be a bit of a risk because they have fewer seats anyway. But and again, like, honestly, right now, no one is really being super upfront about whether or not they're gonna have fewer seats because of just deferrals, but it is a strong possibility, so you just need to be very careful with any binding early decision school you choose. Just really, really do your homework, but I don't think there's gonna be, like, just a ton of fewer seats because, again, like, these schools need to remake some of the money they lost.
Yeah.
So, an easy way is just to accept some more students, right?
Yeah, and I was reading a survey by like admissions officers, and of course, like Michaela was saying, it's going to vary greatly from like those elite colleges that have limited number of seats that everyone wants to go to, versus, I mean, maybe still like a top 50, a top 100 school. Like it's going to look very different. But a lot of them are expecting that their seats, like all of their seats, aren't going to be full this year. That
Mhm,
their admissions class just isn't going to be as full as previous years, just because one, maybe kids can't afford to go to college. Two, maybe they're like, I don't want to go to college online. So, depends on the school, of course, but for the most part, besides like, the ones that we talked about before, those elites, you probably won't have as many problems getting into schools. But that being said, who knows?
Yeah, we don't know for sure.
Yeah, this is
We can only
speculation
guess on the things we've read and our own experiences, but yeah.
for sure. So, the last question.
Okay.
So
All
I'll
right.
read it so that you don't have to read it as well. So this one is about the FAFSA and who should fill it out. And at what point should you like not? If your family makes 400, 500, 600K, how much aid will you actually get? So is it a good idea to fill that out, the CSS profile as well? Um, if you aren't likely to get aid and you still apply for aid, will it diminish the odds of getting college acceptance? A lot of questions in one. Are colleges really need blind? And why do they ask on the common application whether the student is applying for aid? So let our scholarship guru, Michaela, financial aid guru, take over this one.
Perfect. Okay. So so filling out the FAFSA qualifies you or your child, whoever asked the question, for all the different, federal student aid programs. I think there's, 8 or 9 of them, as well as all the state aid programs, and then also the college-based institutional aid. So it's not just only looking at the federal aid for this. So filling out the FAFSA just like opens the door to all these available funds. At the very least, you might want to qualify for the very best student loans, if they're needed at any point. And if you do take out loans, you're probably going to want those loans to be the lowest interest rates. And of course, the FAFSA is the prerequisite for the direct unsubsidized loans, the grad plus loans, parent plus loans, although parent plus loans should be kind of like last resort. These loans are available without regard to demonstrated financial aid, and they're the lowest interest rate ones. So the family doesn't need to be poor or anything like that to qualify for these, or like, under 100K or anything like that to qualify for these federal aid, or student loan programs. And even wealthy students and parents can get these low cost loans. So, and also a lot of top universities combine the FAFSA and the CSS profile and use their own formula for the aid, meaning that the FAFSA like expected family contribution calculation doesn't actually even get used by them. So again, you're never gonna know if you'll get money, if you're upper middle class, unless you apply.
Mhm.
It also doesn't take much time. So this is what I say to students and their families: is 1 or 2 hours of your time worth potentially a couple $1,000 if it works out? I would say yes. I've never worked a job where a couple hours could get me, thousands of dollars. And you can also always file the first year. And if you get nothing and don't need to take out student loans, never file again.
Yeah.
But it really, again, depends on the school you're applying to, if they also look at the CSS profile or not. But again, it just certainly doesn't hurt, but it could always help. So I do recommend doing it. And I do know that, like, there was some statistic, it was a couple years ago, but I think it was like wealth management, an article that said like 34. I do not remember this statistic. I don't. This is totally like out of the blue. But it was like 34 billion or million or something like that of federal aid went unused
Yeah.
in like 2016 or 2018. So there are people out there that would qualify that aren't taking advantage of it. And
Mhm.
you might be one of them. So again, it doesn't hurt, only an hour or two of your time, but it could help. So just do
Honestly. Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That was
That's
a
around.
really long answer. Sorry.
And it only takes about an hour or so to fill it out,
Yeah,
if even that. So it's really worth your time. Maybe
just do it.
if it's not, it's only an hour, so it's really not the end of the world. And if you do need some advice, Michaela has been working hard on a little series to answer all your tips. And so if you go to like our channel, you can see those under FAFSA tips. And also, if you haven't hit subscribe, please subscribe to our channel too. We got tons of great webinars and a lot of good information for you. We do webinars, every couple weeks. So we would be happy to have you join us next time. And so if you did join via Eventbrite and we got your email, so we'll be sending out this recording as well. But I wanted to give you a couple more resources. We will be hosting another like Ask Me Anything style webinar on November 4th, same time. So you can sign up, same place you signed up before on Eventbrite. So please join us there. We have a ton of free resources on our website. So we've got moonprep.com/resources. Check out our resources. We've got like a college essay ebook. We've got interview ebooks. We've got tons of like brainstorming and supplemental essay help. Um, just a lot of information on there, and it's all free. So you can go ahead and check that out. Oops, wrong way. And if you want to contact us, you can check out our website, moonprep.com. You can schedule a meeting with us if you want to work with us at moonprep.com/contact. And then there's the lovely Michaela's email. So you can email her if you have any questions or anything like that. We're happy to help you throughout this college admissions journey. Do you have anything you want to add, Michaela?
No, just thank you so much for spending your evening with us. And we, of course, want to work with you in, a more consistent capacity than just answering one question thrown out to the universe. So, yeah, sign up to work with us and we will help you on every step of your academic journey. So,
Perfect. All right, everyone, have a good evening, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.